I'm not really sure how to start this video, to be honest. I don't entirely feel ready to really talk about it, but at the same time, I hate hiding it from you guys, and I feel like I'm almost living a lie. So I really want to get it out there and get it off my chest, and maybe that will help me process it and accept it as well. So here it goes. I'm not vegan anymore.
Hey everyone over at Plant-Based News, Goji Man here. I hope you are all well. So over the last few days, I've had so many people reach out to me about the Bonny Rebecca situation. Some angry, some confused, and some just don't know what to make of it. So Klaus reached out to me a couple of days ago for my opinion on the situation, and we thought it would be a good idea to do a collab so that I can give you my opinions on Bonny's recent video on why she is no longer vegan. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm a full-time vegan YouTuber. I have 12 weeks left on my Masters in Nutrition, and later this year I'm going to be doing a PhD in Nutritional Science. I also operate as a nutritional therapist to help vegans and non-vegans overcome their gut and health issues. This all started for me after losing both parents to heart disease and a sister to cancer, so I know all too well the impacts that making the wrong dietary and lifestyle choices can have. Now, diet aside, I really hope Bonny's and Tim's health continues to improve, and this video is absolutely not a hate video. What they have done for the vegan community is awesome, and I think the way Bonny has conveyed her issues in her video should absolutely be commended. Many ex-vegans before Bonny who claim they had compassion for animals have been incredibly disrespectful to the vegan community, jumping straight onto carnivore podcasts, etc. I have nothing but love for Bonny and Tim for their honesty and transparency in managing their difficult health issues. I also think their integrity as people can also be seen in that they acknowledged they entered veganism with health and digestive problems, and it was these underlying gut issues that made it challenging to continue to eat a fully vegan diet. It was not a vegan diet that failed them, and that is an important distinction that needs to be made. Now, over the last 6 months, we have seen a few ex-vegans denounce the vegan diet because of its supposed impact on their health.
I am no longer a vegan.
So I recently stopped being vegan.
I'm not actually vegan anymore.
You will often hear them say that they did everything right, so they consumed enough protein, they juiced, they fasted, but they couldn't make the diet work for them. A common scenario you will also hear is that everything was great at first, their digestion improved, their energy improved, their depression lifted, and they were loving life.
I was loving it. Like, as soon as I changed my diet, I noticed so many positives. My sinuses cleared. I felt like I lost a lot of weight and water weight. Like, I was way less puffy. I felt lighter. I felt more energetic. I was really enjoying my food because I could eat. I think that was the main attraction to veganism and that kind of lifestyle, was eating abundance of food and not having to worry about restricting your calories, because that's how it was promoted. So I was really into that, and I just felt so good being able to eat like large meals, and everything was really good.
This is usually followed by 2 years in and their health started to slide a bit, but instead of acknowledging it and seeking out help, they chose to ignore it. When their energy levels dropped, they chose to ignore it, and even when their hair started to fall out, they chose to ignore it. They ignored it when they fasted for 3 months and then felt worse when they reintroduced food. They also ignored it when they got rushed into hospital, but that minute they ate that magic chicken egg, they knew what they'd been missing for the last 2 years. Now, another reason that I have total respect for Bonny and Tim is that they knew they had underlying gut issues. They knew it wasn't normal to be bloated and in pain, so they educated themselves around SIBO, histamines, oxalates, and all the other different types of gut issues.
Tim had come across a few people online that were talking a lot about SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And he kind of thought maybe that's what he had. So he started researching a lot into that and trying to figure out, what he could possibly do.
And then sort out some health professional assistance. Now, I will explain shortly why I think they ultimately struggled to find resolution to their problems with the doctors and naturopaths who they spoke with. But the fact that they narrowed down their health issues to SIBO type of gut issues is further than most get, so kudos for that. They didn't just bury their head in the sand and pretend everything was all right. And let me explain why burying your head in the sand is the worst approach that you can take while on a vegan diet. So for example, a hypothetical scenario for you. So you've recently gone vegan, you've always had bloating, but you've heard that the vegan diet can really help with digestive problems. After a year or so, your bloating gets worse, and this causes your ileocecal valve between your small and large intestines to stay open. When this happens, you start getting bacteria travelling from your large intestines to your small intestines, which then causes a condition called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So you should only have a small amount of bacteria in your small intestines, as this is where you absorb your nutrients. And if you do get a build-up of bacteria, the bacteria will ferment your food and cause massive amounts of bloating and cramping type issues. So many people in this situation are wrongly diagnosed with IBS, and in fact a large proportion of people with IBS have SIBO as the underlying cause. So get rid of the bacteria and the gas, pain and bloating will go away. But the thing with SIBO is that if it's left undiagnosed for prolonged periods, it can then start to transition into autoimmune type health problems, and then you will really start developing malabsorption issues. You will start feeling weak, the brain fog will set in, skin issues, insomnia, anxiety and many other issues are possible. And this can all stem from simple bloating caused by simple digestive issues. Now there is a massive problem within the vegan community where people are literally shunned for talking about themselves struggling on a vegan diet, and this absolutely has to stop. There are a number of gut problems such as SIBO, gut dysbiosis, leaky gut, candida, parasites, oxalates, histamine, salicylates that will cause your life to be a living nightmare if you are on a vegan diet. Does this mean the vegan diet is the problem? Absolutely not. It simply means that your gut doesn't have the right tools to do the job because of the numerous reasons that I have stated, but these problems can be rectified. So there are many things that can cause your digestion to falter. Antibiotic use, contraceptives, other medications, stress, pesticides, low stomach acid, pancreatic enzyme deficiencies, bile issues, ileocecal valve problems, and so on. And when your digestion starts to falter, the compounds in fruits and vegetables such as sulfur, oxalates, histamines and salicylates will not be broken down correctly because you don't have the necessary gut bacteria, and then you start reacting to food after food, all while your diet becomes more and more restricted. So you can see, if you are not clued up on gut issues, how you can then perceive the vegan diet to be the problem. Even more so when you visit your doctor who has never heard of SIBO and simply tells you you have IBS. So I really wish that I'd known about Bonny and Tim's situation 12 months ago so I could have reached out to them. And let me explain why I think their naturopaths and dietitians failed them based on what Bonny said in her video. So Bonny and Tim were having digestive problems and then advised to go on very restricted diets, all while not fixing their underlying problems. Their treatment was simply avoiding foods that were causing issues.
She was like, you need to stop eating so many carbs and so much fiber, and you need to eat more protein.
But this is a very dangerous approach. When you take this approach, not only are you not getting enough nutrition, but when you have gut issues and then you restrict foods, you can then become super reactive to the foods that you are avoiding. They were following this approach for a few months, all the time while getting worse and worse and losing more weight.
Nothing helped his symptoms. He started losing a lot of weight. It felt like he was eating and his body was absorbing nothing.
And all the time that their guts were compromised, they would have been absorbing less and less nutrients. So now you're in a situation where your gut is not working, you are not breaking down or absorbing foods, and then your symptoms are getting worse and worse. On top of this, they were told to take a lot of supplements.
He put me on quite a few herbs and supplements.
All the time while restricting their diets. It's pure craziness. If any nutritionist tells you to restrict your diet, to take supplements all the time while not treating the root cause of your problems, then run an absolute mile. So after this, Bonny and Tim had lost all confidence in their doctors and nutritionists, and they were going from person to person to person, costing a lot of money all the time while they were getting worse and worse and worse. It was around this time through their own research that they came across small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and then they had to go on another search to find a doctor who could do the SIBO testing for them and get their answers. Bearing in mind, we are now months down the line on very restricted, nutritionally deficient diets. So they found a doctor who they could trust, but there was a 4-month waiting list to see him. Again, just keep the timelines in your head. Months and months have gone by with very restricted diets on guts that were already compromised when they entered veganism. Now, if you haven't seen Bonny's video, I urge you to watch it, especially from 24 minutes onwards, so you can understand the toll that their health issues had on them, as you would expect with a restricted path that they were on. So because Tim's health was very bad now, they saw a doctor in Sydney who told them the reality of their situation.
And she pretty much said to him, look, I know you've been vegan for a really long time, but right now what you're eating, your gut cannot physically break down and extract nutrients from. You're not getting any nutrients, you're not getting calories, you are fading away, and you have to change your diet, otherwise you're going to end up in hospital.
Tim's gut was trashed, he wasn't absorbing nutrients, and unless he changed his diet very soon, he would end up in hospital. So Tim introduced eggs and fish into his diet, and within a week his symptoms had subsided.
So the first thing he started eating was some fish and eggs. He had fish twice a day for lunch and dinner, and eggs for breakfast. And within about 5 days, all of his symptoms had cleared.
He then started eating chicken as this was more calorie dense, and he then started to put on weight. His digestion had improved, his skin was better, but Bonny was still on a low allergen restricted diet. And this was the point at which Bonny and Tim finally got to see their doctor they wanted after waiting 4 months. And in her video, Bonny explains this was the point that she became physically and emotionally exhausted from trying to figure all of this out by herself. So when the doctor did testing on Bonny and Tim, they found that Bonny had a bacterial imbalance in her gut, omega-3 problems, cortisol issues, and high inflammatory markers.
A bacterial imbalance in my gut, a really big imbalance with my omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, an imbalance in my cortisol levels, and the main thing that he was concerned about, which was very high inflammatory markers.
And Tim obviously had SIBO issues, etc. Now you can see how convoluted this process was, and you can see if they had have spoken to someone who knew what they were talking about when they became vegan or soon after, a lot of this misery can have been avoided. Months and months went by on very restricted diets, so it's no wonder that their bodies were really struggling. And now my apology to Tim and Bonny. So I saw on Bonny's video that someone had said that they should have reached out to me. Bonny replied to the person that she did, but I apparently replied that I didn't have the time to speak to them because of my workload and study commitments at the time. So I don't have a recollection of this, but over the last couple of months I have seen over 300 people, so I've been absolutely swamped, so I can only apologise. All I can say today is that if there is anything I can do, then please reach out to me. Now the biggest takeaway that I have for everyone is the importance of knowing what you are dealing with. So if you have any health issues, whether you have been vegan for 5 minutes or for 5 years, then get tested and know what you are dealing with. If your doctor or naturopath is clueless, then get a new one. Functional doctors and nutritionists like me use tests like the organic acids test, the comprehensive stool test, and the SIBO test to get a detailed picture of what's going on in the gut. Now, if these tests had been used on Bonny and Tim a long time ago and their practitioners knew what they were doing, then we would not be here talking about why Bonny is no longer vegan. And this is the same story for many ex-vegans. The gut is extremely complex but extremely simple. When you take a holistic view and you don't just treat based on symptoms, most gut problems can be resolved. Please, please, please never ignore symptoms. It's your body's way of telling you that you have a problem. If you keep brushing them off, ignoring them all the time while your body is struggling, you will end up becoming the next ex-vegan. You absolutely do not need to live with IBS, SIBO, cramping, constipation, GERD, heartburn, or any other digestive or health problems. And I absolutely promise you that a carnivore or meat approach is not the long-term answer. Yes, you will get some immediate reductions in symptoms if you have left it to a stage where your body is devoid of all nutrients. Of course you will. But if you have SIBO, oxalates, histamines, or other gut problems, the meat will only mask the symptoms, it will not resolve the underlying cause. And by not resolving these underlying causes, you run the risk of your health deteriorating further at a later date. Now, the vegan community has taken a bit of a knock over the recent months, and much of this is self-inflicted. But for reasons beyond me, many people put their health decisions at the feet of those they follow on YouTube and social media. All too often in my practice, I speak to people who have tried to copy a vegan YouTuber doing things like a 30-day water fast because of their gut issues, and now they can't eat anything. And now their health problems have escalated significantly on what was a fairly easy gut issue to resolve. The stupidity has to stop. If you care about the animals, then you absolutely have to have the same level of investment in your own health. Otherwise, you are no use to veganism. If you don't invest in your own health and you don't do the basics, then eventually your health will falter and you will become another sick vegan. Your health is your greatest wealth. Anyway, that's my opinion on the whole situation. Apologies again to Bonny and Tim, and thanks so much, Klaus, for everything you do.